Milling Through History presents The Real Hamilton Woman. Elizabeth Schuyler Hamilton was born August the 9th, 1757. Daughter to General Philip Schuyler, Elizabeth found herself born into one of the oldest families in New York. Part of the Reformed Dutch Church of Albany, Elizabeth was an extremely deeply religious person throughout the course of her lifetime. She was also described as a tomboy as a child and had the unique opportunity of meeting Benjamin Franklin during the French Indian War along with her father. In 1775, Elizabeth had her first case of love when she became smitten with Major John Andre of the British Army. Andre had been a guest at the Schuyler household and had done numerous sketches of young Elizabeth at the time. However, their love was not meant to be. In 1780, though, Elizabeth would meet the love of her life in the form of Alexander Hamilton. Their courtship began, and numerous letters were shared between the two. It was also during this time that she would meet Martha Washington and referred to her as, quote, my ideal of a true woman. As Elizabeth and Alexander shared letters, their first real test for their relationship came forward in the fall of 1780. As Major John Andre was captured as a spy in New York, fleeing from West Point, trying to get back to the British lines. When he was captured, he was found in civilian clothing, and according to the rules of war, George Washington was able to hang Andre as a spy. Andre had begged to be given a soldier's execution, namely in front of a firing squad. Elizabeth even begged her fiancé, Alexander Hamilton, to intervene and try to get the execution changed. But George Washington would not allow this, and Andre was hanged as a spy. While tension did fill the air, it seemed to have dissipated, for by December of 1780, Elizabeth and Alexander were wed. Following the Revolutionary War, both Elizabeth and Alexander engaged in a very active social life in New York City. When George Washington was elected the first president of the United States, she and Alexander were not only allowed to attend the inauguration, but also the presidential inaugural ball. Along with Lucy Knox and Sarah Jay, Elizabeth was able to create the beginning of political society for the spouses of politicians. However, Elizabeth was no regular politician's wife. She took a very active role in helping her husband with his writing career, especially as he worked on the Federalist Papers, the Defense and the Bank of the United States, and Washington's farewell address. The greatest test for her marriage to Alexander Hamilton, though, came in 1797, when she learned of her husband's infidelity. Although she had been aware of rumors about this occurring, she always dismissed it as simply people trying to stir up bad rumors about him. However, in 1797, Alexander Hamilton confessed to the infidelity, and the two had a strain put upon their marriage. Had it not been for the illness of their eldest child, Philip, the two might not have been able to reconcile. Sadly, though, even though their eldest child did become sick, 4 years later in 1801, Philip would be killed by participating in a duel. In 1804, Alexander himself, participating in a duel with Aaron Burr, was also killed. When he died, next to him were Elizabeth and the 7 remaining children that were still alive. Following the death of her husband, Elizabeth needed to settle her husband's debts, which forced her to sell their home at auction. Friends of the family, not wanting her to suffer any more than she already had, purchased the house and then sold it to her for a fraction of the cost, allowing her to live in New York City for a number of years. In 1806, Elizabeth would help to found the New York Orphan Asylum Society and remained part of the group for 42 years. The society provided orphan children a place to go, which would have been far safer than living in poorhouses or on the street. Today, the society has been renamed as the Graham Windham and still serves as a social service organization for children. In addition to her social work, Elizabeth worked to preserve the legacy of her husband. She worked with her son to help publish the first biography on Alexander Hamilton, which would go on with a unique position in history as setting the bar for all future biographies on Alexander Hamilton. In 1848, she successfully convinced Congress to publish all of Hamilton's writings and added his papers into the Library of Congress. Even into her 90s, Elizabeth worked with Dolly Madison and Louisa Adams to raise funds for the Washington Monument. Elizabeth Hamilton would live to the ripe old age of 97. She would live long enough to see the 14th President of the United States, Franklin Pierce, be sworn into office. She passed away on November 9th, 1854, and is buried in Trinity Church next to her husband in New York. Be sure to click like, share, and subscribe for future videos of Milling Through History. Leave a comment below about future show ideas.